You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Last night on the Ed Orgeron, the Coach O show, the Ed Orgeron radio show, a prank caller got through. I am not going to play the audio. We do not have redistribution rights of that audio. So at the request of LSU, I won't play it. I think that's a completely reasonable request. So if you want to hear it, it's out there. You can find it. Whatever. Prank caller got through, made a very off-color joke that was brain dead, stupid, immature, and in no way acceptable. It's also the risk you run whenever you take calls on a live radio show without a delay. But I don't run that show, and it's just how it goes sometimes. And sometimes stuff like that happened with Les Miles near the end as well when he had prank callers come through. In no way would I condone the call. What's gotten more attention was Ed Orgeron's response, where he, in an attempt to make a joke, made a very off-color joke in his own right, where he said, where I'm from, down the bayou, we have a nice fishing hole for people like you. Essentially a mafioso type response, you feed you to the fishes type deal. No, Ed Orgeron was not literally threatening to kill this person. I mean, it's not a death threat. It was just a very stupid thing to say in a public forum, especially with all of the noise around the program. And, this week has been very unsettling. Not just because of the Auburn game and what happened on the field, but in a lot of the conversations I've had, and we've talked about this from the spring and the summer throughout, and you've heard me say this a million times, and I wasn't guessing when I told you this. I'm just sharing information with you that I felt was credible and good, and it's why I was willing to come to air with it, which is for Ed Orgeron to really feel safe, he needed to win 9 games this year. 8-4, depending how it looked, kind of 7-5, they were going to fire Ed Orgeron and hire a new coach. And my understanding was that any decision on that would not come until the end of the season. I think I shared that earlier this week. And if you look at Scott Woodward's track record as an athletic director, that's really how he's always operated. When he was at the University of Washington, Tyrone Willingham was there. He inherited Ty Willingham as a head coach, and Tyrone Willingham had a winless season. He was 0-12. And he coached out the entirety of that season before Scott Woodward made the decision. When Scott was at Texas A&M and he fired Kevin Sumlin and then hired Jimbo Fisher, he waited until the end of the season before parting ways with Kevin Sumlin. And I had no reason to believe, based on conversations I had, that this would be any different, that they would let the season play out and at the right time make the decision on Ed Orgeron's future. This week feels very different. From the way the Auburn game ended, and I don't just mean blowing the lead, but what happened at the end of the game, not getting a play in, coming out of a kickoff, burning a timeout, all the stuff that we've talked about and kicked around ad nauseum. On Monday, Ed Orgeron leaving his press conference after 9 minutes. Obviously, what happened on the coach's show last evening with the inappropriate joke. And when you throw all of that on top of everything else, which includes Title IX allegations, Ed being involved in 2 Title IX lawsuits, named as a defendant in 2 Title IX lawsuits, the NCAA issues facing LSU football as well, and you start to pile all the other public relations stuff, the sissy blue shirt, the photographs with women, whether you want to say that's appropriate or not. Listen, the thing that I've said often, and I mean this sincerely, he's a grown man, he's a single man, and he can do what he wants. But you also have to understand that you are a representative. You are the face of a $100 million annual organization with LSU football. I mean, you have to behave accordingly when you're in the public eye, and time again, he's not done that. And I guess my point is, Scott Woodward is someone who has made it known that Scott doesn't want to be public facing. Scott doesn't want to be an AD that's doing radio interviews all the time and always on TV and being quoted in the paper. He doesn't want that. He wants to be able to do his job without being hassled. He wants his coaches and athletes to be the forward-facing front of LSU athletics, which is fantastic. That's how it should be. I think if you look at pro sports, it's the same. Like, who really wants to hear Jerry Jones do a weekly radio interview? You'd rather hear from the coaches and the players. So I agree with Scott to that end. But you have to be able to trust that your coaches are representing the brand and the organization in a responsible and appropriate way. And I think what's happened is too many times that hasn't happened with Ed. Football notwithstanding, those things which have built up, and then when you throw on top of it the 5-5 season a year ago, and now this, which transpired here in the early part of this season and continues seemingly with every day to build, it really feels like a lot of the chatter from LSU is, man, if they lose on Saturday, that decision could be made now. A lot of people have asked, if that did happen, who would be the interim coach? I think Scott Woodward is a very measured person. I've talked about that often. He is a tactful, smart leader, and he doesn't make a decision and then try to deal through the ramifications. He processes all the possible ramifications of everything, so the roadmap is laid out. And if they were to make that decision, my understanding is that Mickey Joseph would be the guy. He's the receivers coach, but he does have the title as assistant head coach. So, this game Saturday is massive. It really is, because this pendulum could swing one of two directions. LSU could go on the road and beat a ranked team that is coming off a massive win against Florida and is 5-0 and undefeated and soaring high and maybe looking ahead next week to Georgia. You have a great opportunity to go on the road and get a ranked win and maybe get this thing back on track. If you go get this win at Kentucky, then you welcome in Florida next week, and that would be obviously a massive atmosphere in Tiger Stadium if you're able to have it. Then you'd have Ole Miss and Bama after that, we all know, and then you take it sort of week by week. But if you go into this game and you, for lack of a better phrase, lay an egg. Let's say you go and the players seem disinterested, or you face some adversity and you don't handle it well, or there's more situations like we saw against Auburn. I could see a reality where Scott Woodward may feel like his hand is forced to make that decision for the good of the program, short and long term. It's just a massive week, and it would happen at Orgeron's radio show on Wednesday night is just another brick on that wall, that mountain of evidence that's being built up against Ed keeping his job. And it was unfortunate that it happened the way it did. I want to be very clear. In no way am I in any way excusing the moron who called in and prank called the show. But in the same light, I'm not excusing the head coach at LSU who makes $8 million a year from not having enough awareness to just move on. All right, we're going to follow that, certainly, and we'll talk plenty about this game, LSU and Kentucky. Saturday from the former Commonwealth Stadium, now Kroger Field. What is a big one for the Tigers, both this season and very likely the future of the program. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.